Well, good afternoon from a rather cloudy but much less windier Portrush, West Strand beach. Just having a bit of a walk along, and the light's not great, but thought I would come out and maybe we do a little bit of long exposure stuff. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't think there's a bit of a squall out there on the horizon, but I don't think it's supposed to rain today. So we'll go along. I've got a couple of little areas just along the beach here where it might be interesting to try some long exposure stuff. I say long exposure stuff, not as long possibly as I would have liked, as I'm waiting on my new cable release to come. I bought one of the cheap imitation Fuji cable releases and it lasted 18 months, which I guess isn't bad given the price, but I'm now on my second one, so it should be here hopefully in a couple of days time, but we'll see how we go. I have a polarizer, which of course will help darken things if need be. I've got a 3-stop, which I'll probably end up using. A 10-stop may make things a little bit too dark for the aperture that I want to use, but we'll have a bit of a go. So yeah, so this is Portrush on the North Antrim Coast in Northern Ireland, a few miles away from the Giant's Causeway, and I have just moved here, in fact, so still doing plenty of discovery myself, which as a photographer is always quite exciting. So yeah, we'll catch up in a bit. Alright, bye. So I found myself down on the water's edge. I think I'm going to struggle for the exposure time that I want, I need, without a cable release. Yeah, so I'm probably going to have to use a larger aperture, which obviously isn't going to give me the depth of field that I need, but needs must type of thing. So I'm set up here with the Fuji XE2. It's got the Fuji 10 to 24mm lens on it and a 10-stop formatt-hitech filter with a little modification to keep out some of the light leaks. I was shooting there just at f7.1 and 30 seconds and just a little bit dark. But what I'm really trying to do here is, if you notice, some of the larger waves come in, they actually fill this little area here. It's just kind of getting them sort of going maybe back out again. I might actually switch to the 3-stop ND filter, which will allow me to kind of have a shorter exposure time, but still in the seconds, which may just, you know, give me the movement that I want. So here comes a larger wave now. You'll see some of the larger waves come right up where this bottom pool is here. I think this maybe not here. And it's that motion that I'm really looking to capture. But we'll see what we go from. Maybe change some of the settings here, but yeah, I think I'm going to struggle without the cable release. So hurry up, postman. Meh. As is quite often the case with a landscape photographer, meh. So the waves maybe aren't, the larger waves are only coming up maybe once every 10 minutes or so. I mean, I'm going to have this ready to go just while I'm talking to you guys. But just a little bit of background on the settings, well, on the setup. So obviously what I've done is I've actually done on my here comes the bigger wave, maybe not, the second will be. I've actually done all my pre-focusing without the filter on, and then put it to, once I've got my focus point achieved, my depth of field achieved, albeit not as big a depth of field as I would have liked, I then switch it to manual focus. This just stops the camera from hunting too much. So this was an f5 at 25 seconds. So yeah, maybe with a decent wave it might work. I haven't had one that has really kind of floated my boat yet, but we'll keep trying. Might move to the 3-stop, just like that. One decides to come up a bit further. So this is a 30-second exposure. Let's see the handy little count sign. So 30-second exposure, a formatt-hitech graduated ND filter, sorry, and we'll see how this comes out. Where are we? The reason why I'm down here is I really love the black volcanic rock and the white waves. I think there's something very nice about that. Now what I really wanted was a bit more movement in the clouds. What I'll probably end up doing now is putting well, I'll need to work it out, but a grad on there just to hold back some of the highlights in the sky and see whether we can bring out some of the detail in the sky. So let's see whether that gives us any success. Okay, as I'm sure you're very well aware, leading lines are very important in photography, really guiding the viewer's eye in, and been struggling to kind of get maybe a line here, and I noticed actually just down below me this little sort of crack that runs between these two rocks, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if a really big wave came up and actually filled that? And lo and behold, we just had a really big wave come through. Now it got very close to the tripod, very close to my feet. Here comes another one, probably not as big, but it actually filled quite a bit of the area that I was actually interested to shoot. So that may have worked. We'll see whenever we get back to the office. When I'm shooting, so right now I've got a 3-stop ND filter and a 3-stop ND Grad on just to hold back some of the highlights in the sky. Typically when I'm shooting, so I'm down here at f11 at 6.5 seconds. I'm quite interested actually in the waves going out. I think that actually creates nicer patterns in photography than actually when they come in. Just gonna see whether this wave does anything. No. You can see that it does take a relatively, there's one. So I've actually just hit the shutter, and you can see that those waves are making this glorious kind of swirling pattern. That's what I'm actually looking to capture. So yeah, see what it looks like when we get back to the office. I guess I might as well apologize as well for the comparing it to other photographers who create little in the field videos like this. The production quality, just shooting this on my iPhone, not really kind of got much in the way of video recording kit. I have a GoPro, but we'll just keep the iPhone for now. But I just really wanted to, especially as I start my journey here on the north coast of Ireland, to maybe give you a little bit of an insight into, you know, what the conditions are like here as well, both good and bad. Just keeping an eye on those waves coming in, because hopefully, I mean, this is a stunning part of the world to visit, to walk, to run, to sit and just look out to sea, and of course to take pictures. And hopefully over the coming months I'll be able to put together a number of these videos to just show you my journey as we that was a rather large wave that came through there, so some green plovers on the go. Oh, this could be the one. So I'm actually shooting, as I said earlier, with the Fuji Xe2. Haven't yet upgraded to the new firmware, which I see launched a day or so ago. Do that in the next couple of days. Love the Fuji. Predominantly commercially, I'm a sports photographer, and of course I use a Canon kit. And for my wildlife and landscape stuff up until maybe 6 months ago, I was also a Canon shooter as well. But I now own a Fuji Xe2 and a Fuji X100T, which I love. and these now really are my go-to cameras when it comes to landscape shooting. On the Fuji today, as I said, I've got the 10 to 24mm lens. Love that lens, really versatile. Love it at the widest, love it at 24mm as well. Today I'm shooting both RAW and JPEG, and on JPEG I'm actually shooting black and white plus R. Two reasons for that. One, I love to sort of think, I'm already thinking of course this is going to be a black and white image, so I just like to visualize that on the back of the screen. But to be honest as well, the quality of the JPEGs coming out of the Fujis may actually mean that I have to do minimal, if any, post-processing, which of course the more time I can spend, or the less time I can spend behind the computer and the more time in the field, suits me just fine. So yeah, so black and white plus R, which just gives a slightly more contrasty feel to it, but also shooting RAW just in case I need to pull some extra details out of that file. But I may actually find myself just making use of the JPEGs today. Here comes another reasonably large wave maybe. We'll see what happens here. Not quite. But again, it's filling that bottom or the top of the circle. Now all I need is this. Just one wave. That's all we want. Just one little wave. And a wave that won't wash me into the sea. That's an added bonus. Right? Later. So the other thing that I find when I'm shooting waves is to really keep a close check on your histogram. Of course that's important in any situation, but certainly when shooting these really bright white waves. I don't want to be losing detail in the waves. Even though they are very, very bright compared to the black rocks, you can still make out some of the texture and some of the detail in those waves. So I'm continually just tweaking my settings ever so slightly just to make sure that I've got enough detail shooting nice over to the right. Obviously there is going to be plenty of darkness in here because of the darkness of the rocks, but just making sure that I'm not clipping those highlights, which thankfully at the moment we're not. And a really nice thing on the Fuji is the fact that you can see when you look through the viewfinder how your image is actually going to kind of look in terms of an exposure perspective. In other news, we also had one of those semi-decent waves. Didn't fill the whole gully, filled kind of half of it, but could work, yeah. Okay, so I've actually brought myself to a different part of the coast now. Well, it's got a much wider gully, which has much more frequent water running through. However, the downside is when the water runs through it, it nearly takes me off my feet. Yin and yang. Yin and yang. The other thing I've noticed actually right now is you probably won't be able to see it too much, but maybe you can. There's a really nice kind of weather front just moving in on the horizon, with the Grad just leaving that detail in there. It might actually make for some nice dramatic skies. Waiting for the wave again. Oh, this is the one. So interestingly, this particular gully is working better when I start the exposure as the waves coming in. And the reason for that is because the best white, the whitest of the foam is produced up this gully as the wave is coming in. And that's kind of what I want, the really white leading line in the gully. By the time it's going out, because it's got this pull here, it kind of just peters out and just kind of dribs its way back out again, which really doesn't create, because it hasn't got a lot of rocks to go around, it doesn't really create too much pattern unlike the previous gully. So this time what I'm doing is I'm kind of watching for the wave to break kind of just as it comes into the larger part of this. In fact, this could be one here. Yep, so we're breaking that now, and you see actually it creates maybe a little bit of a stronger line coming in. Oh, could be another one. I think this is going to be a good. Yep, here we go. So as you can see, the wider line is made, the wider foam is made as it's coming up. It's also coming right up at my feet, which is always fun. Gotta watch out for those rogue waves. So that's me done for the night. As is quite often the case with my photography these days, you know, I spend pretty much my whole session in 5 or 6 square meter slot. I really do think that that's the best way to approach your photography. You know, having, rather than kind of dash between locations, you know, really stay and study a location. Spend a bit of time at it, get to know it, especially here at the coast. Watch the waves, count how long it takes for the waves to come through. Look at where the waves are actually making their pattern. So there might be a couple of interesting shots from that. I'll only know when I get back to the office or back home. But for now, hope you enjoyed this little in the field video. I'll maybe put a couple of images up at the end of the video just to see how things went. But yeah, check out any of the links below, subscribe to the video, and I hope to produce a couple of these each month from the North Coast here in Northern Ireland. Alright guys, see you later.